Boy X, page 185. And yes, I felt pretty silly when I stopped the last section and then afterwards realized that all I needed to read was the rest of this page and then it would be a new section. So felt a little silly about that. So Ash hesitated right up here and then threw the box down into the hole and stood up. "There's something else you should know," Thorn said as they were about to walk away, "about your dad." "My dad?" Ash stopped and looked back. Thorn took a deep breath and rubbed a hand across his face. "I'm sorry, Ash. What happened to him? When your mom refused to give Pierce what he wanted, he organized a way to persuade her. What they were going to do to you, they already did to your father." "No." Ash felt a flush of grief and confusion. "It was an accident, hit and run." "It was murder, Ash. Your father was killed on purpose. Pierce ordered it. He wanted to." But Ash didn't hear the rest of what Thorn was saying. All he could think about was the car coming off the road and plowing into Dad. It was the same thing he had seen over and over again in his head, except now it wasn't senseless and it wasn't an accident. It was vicious murder. And there was something else gnawing at the back of Ash's mind, a twisted thought with a terrible black heart. What happened to Dad hadn't been his fault. It had been Mom's, and he was here because of her. So we're actually going to skip to page 191. It is 6 hours and 53 minutes till shutdown, and what's happening is that Isabel and Ash are heading towards the bay where the boat is. Howler monkeys are following them. Isabel is starting to feel better because that was in fact the cure. But while they're going through the jungle, they catch up to Pierce and Kane, and Ash just can't stop thinking about something that doesn't seem right with what Thorn said. So on page 191, there are 5 hours and 26 minutes until shutdown. They're in the jungle looking at the camp where Kane and Pierce and the other soldiers are. "I know what you're thinking." Isabel watched Ash staring at the orange glow dancing through the trees. The air grew cooler as the rain approached, pushing the wind ahead of it. "But we should just go past," she said. "This is our chance to reach the boat before them, to stop them from leaving the island. They're soldiers. They have guns. We're just kids. We have to get to the boat and call for help." We agreed. Ash didn't take his eyes off the distant fire. "Cure first, boat second." "Yes, but I think they're too strong." "I'm strong. And what if this is our only chance to rescue Mom and your dad? Maybe we can get what we need and go back." "In 5 hours?" Isabel shook her head. "It's quicker to go to the boat and call for help, just like Thorn said." "Why should we trust him? He gave me the cure. And what if we go there and get caught, killed? They will leave the island and everyone will die. All our friends, grandparents, aunts, uncles. Everyone, the whole planet. Thorn said we need to stop them from leaving. Kronos can't get out." "But the cure is right there, Isabel. Right there." Ash pointed at the fire in the distance, feeling the frustration build. "At least let's check it out." "And what if they see us? What if they don't?" Isabel put a hand to her mouth and stared at the ground, shaking her head. "All right, the rain will cover our sounds." The rain came in a hiss of white noise that blanketed the other sounds of the forest as it bore down on them. Ash stared at the campfire farther along the ridge until it was lost in the downpour. "The rain has reached them now," he said. "All right, check the straps." Isabel touched a hand to Thorn's survival pack. "We can't make a sound." Ash tightened the strap across his chest and they set off, moving to the edge of the ridge so they were just below its highest point. Closer to the fire, Isabel stopped and scooped up a handful of mud, smearing it across her face. When she looked at Ash, all he could see was the whites of her eyes, and then the rain began to streak through the mud like she was melting. It was perfect camouflage, so Ash did the same, wiping mud over his face and hands. They sneaked through trees until they neared the place where they estimated the camp to be. With the rain still pounding on them, they lay down and crawled up to the incline, making their way back to the top of the ridge until Ash caught sight of the fire flickering through the trees about 60 feet away. Drawing closer to a thick clump of vegetation, they snaked beneath the wide leaves to peer out at the camp. For an adult, it might have been more difficult, but neither Ash nor Isabel was very big, so they were able to get close enough to see the camp in detail. Waterproof sheets were propped on long sticks sheltering the soldiers from the rain. Kane was perched on a log to the right of the campfire, leaning forward and eating from a mess tin. Her carbine, which is a gun, was across her lap as if she expected to use it at any moment. Pierce was sitting on the crate Ash had seen him carrying from the biosphere. Across his shoulder was the strap of a messenger bag that lay in his lap. The other 4 men, including the massive soldier he had nicknamed Hulk, were all sitting with their backs to the fire, facing into the forest in different directions with their carbines at the ready. Ash's eyes were drawn back to Pierce, who was scraping a spoon around in his mess kit, finding the last remains of his meal. Ash detected the sound of movement from inside the crate he was sitting on. It was now certain it contained one of the howler monkeys. Thorn had told them Pierce was taking one off the island to provide the means to make more Kronos, but Ash ignored it and concentrated on Pierce. He tried to read the rogue scientist, hearing the clink of metal on metal, smelling the sweat that soaked his shirt and the sourness of his stale breath. And when he looked at the scientist's profile, he felt a rising hatred. He hated the way he licked his spoon and the way he looked, but this was more than he expected to feel. He had an irrational sense that this was not a man, but a monster, and there was a powerful urge to draw his knife and rush over to the man he had first seen at Dad's funeral. He would stick his knife into him and something touched his hand, and Ash looked down to see Isabel's fingers there, stopping him from taking out his knife. He blinked hard, as if coming out of a trance, and shoved the half-drawn knife back into its sheath. "What were you going to do?" Isabel said as soon as they moved away from the camp. Excuse me. She was trembling, and her voice was a tight whisper. "I thought you were going to do something stupid." "Pierce's bag. Do you see it? I bet that's where everything is. We need to get it. If I can distract them, They're soldiers," Isabel hissed. "Soldiers!" "But I'm strong and quick," Ash argued. "I can grab Pierce's bag and—" "I'm not strong and quick. Not like you. And look how they guard the forest. They will see us, and then there'll be no one to stop them from taking the boat. We have to keep going and call for help. We have no choice." "There's always a choice. That's what Dad would say." "But your dad isn't here." Isabel's words cut into him. Ash glared at her, the rain falling between them. He reached for the tag around his neck. "There was one other choice. We split up. I go for the camp. You go for the boat." "What? No way." "Think about it. You're not as strong and quick as me, but you do know the way to the beach. You can set off now, and I'll get the bag and come after you. I can follow your trail. You know I can. I'll be so fast they won't know what hit 'em. Then I'll catch up with you. It's the only way to save everyone." "And if they catch you?" Ash looked in the direction of camp and shook his head. "They won't."